Hello, Candace. Hello, Candace. Hello, Candace. Can you hear me? You're on mute. Okay, you ready to rock and roll? I can't hear you though. Candace, you're on mute. Can you hear me? I cannot hear you. Okay, guess we're going to get this show started. We have a few guests today who are coming on with us. My name is Willie Flowers. Here is Candace. I cannot hear you. I don't know what. Is your microphone on? Can you hear me? I can't hear you. So, okay. We're having some technical difficulties. Candace, I don't know what. It has to be something. I can't blame it on your mic because I can't tell you how to correct it. But if you did you open up your microphone? Okay. Yeah, I can't hear you at all. And we can't have a show if we can't hear you. Um, okay. Okay, we're gonna start this show. We have 2 or 3 expected guests, and hopefully they'll jump in. But simply put, we're using this opportunity through bmorenews.com, and this significant StreamYard platform to basically talk about civil rights in the state of Maryland and the activities that are going on. We have several guests who are working through the NAACP around the state, and they're doing work in the trenches. And it's so often that people don't get recognized. You don't do it for recognition, but we do want to hold up and support their work so that everybody will know what they're doing. It's not that you can help them. It's not that they need help, but it is the case that we do want to recognize the work of people who are in the community, working in the trenches, and doing this significant grassroots work. It's so often the case that you hear the stories. The general comment is the NAACP doesn't do anything. Well, we have a long list of actions that are going on throughout the state, whether there are planned actions, whether there are programs that we're working on in the community, or whether there are reactions or responses to attacks on civil rights, attacks on community. We could start out by talking about any of them. There's a long list, and one of them is right now in Calvert County, Maryland. There is an attack on the school district, the Board of Education. It happens that the chair of the Board of Education is an African American female, and they have been working for the last several months on a transition plan to select a new superintendent. And it just happens that the conservatives in the community have been lobbying or advocating around critical race theory, around anti-masking and no vaccinations, and the list goes on. But because of that work they were doing in the negative, they didn't keep up with the school board to know that they were in the process of selecting a county, and they told me it was kind of like um, January 6th. So the activity was like unto January 6th in Calvert County, and the NAACP had to get involved, and I had to literally go down to the following board meeting, and it was peaceful, but the point is that there's an attack on the school district, attack on the fact that you have two finalists for the office of superintendent who are African Americans, and the branch there had to work together to combat the attack, and and it's going to be this week that they're going to announce the new superintendent. So stay tuned for that. But the point is, there should be a celebration about having the first African American superintendent. But instead of that, there's an attack because of this time in history. And I want to add here also that while we look at these smaller counties as rural or whatever, it happens that in Calvert County there's a majority of African Americans on the school board, which speaks to a lot of things, but it also speaks to the fact that progress is happening. speaks to also to the fact that the African Americans in that community are concerned about the public schools in that community. And as you know, as it happens, on this Thursday, they will announce the new superintendent. I don't know what the backlash is going to be from those conservatives or anti everything people, but the progress is there. And, it's kind of like building a new building in a community. That when you're in the process of building it, there's anxiety and there's all this. But when you get to the end of it, Talbot County, and the update there is that there has been a very probably a 3 or 4 year. I think it culminated 2 years ago, but there was interest in removing this Confederate statue from the courthouse at Talbot County, the Talbot County Courthouse. And on one side, there was this monument called the Talbot Boys, which gave recognition to the people who were from Calvert County who went and fought on the side of the Confederacy, and they built a monument for these fools. And It's been there for some time. I can't remember the length of time, but our branch president there, his name is Richard Potter. He has been fighting to remove that monument. I think he actually went into to court to remove it, and then it became litigious, but it was also legislative. And I think eventually the county council or the Talbot County, whatever the city is there, Easton, I don't remember, but they voted to remove it, and it was finally removed this week. It was a big celebration for anybody who's interested in this type of nonsense about having traitors, the Confederacy of this country, traitors of this country, represented by the Confederacy, to be honored and monumentalized. So that statue was removed, and it's all because of the constant work of one branch of the NAACP. I think they worked with the ACLU, but they were able to do the grassroots work to get it done, and that's in Talbot County on the Eastern Shore. And now the beauty of it is, on one side was this Talbot Boys statue, which is removed, but on the other side was a statue of Frederick Douglass, and the statue of Frederick Douglass is the only thing that's there now. So it happens that Frederick Douglass was born in Talbot County. I don't remember the exact city, but he was born in Talbot County, and it's worth celebrating the work that he did, because he was working to as an abolitionist. He was working as a feminist. He worked until the day he died to make this country better. On the other hand, I don't want to talk about what the Confederacy was about, because I would rather forget about it. But everybody wants to know the history, but the history doesn't have to be celebrated. It can be put into a category to be dismissed, and shine a light on what we don't do. But the reality is that that's history. So the Talbot Boys statue has been removed, and that's a good thing. On the Eastern Shore, also, we have Queen Anne's County. I think we have Candace Yamez. Can you can we hear you now? Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
All right. Okay, maybe it was
Sorry,
your phone.
technical
So,
difficulties.
everybody, again, this is How Goes the Hour with the NAACP of Maryland. And I'm happy they've heard me talk about some things going on in the state. But the reality is, we're trying to highlight the work that is going on in the state of Maryland, the work that the NAACP is doing in the state of Maryland in the area of civil rights, and this type of, what we do. And the frame is that it's so often the case you don't hear about it, because when we do this work, it's almost like you go on to the next thing. I called to congratulate. I was telling them about President Richard Potter, who may be jumping on, but he was successful this week of removing the Talbot Boys Confederate statue from the courthouse at Talbot County. And when I called him to, tell him about this call and congratulate him, I got a sense. And if you've ever done this work in the community or done a campaign, it's almost like you can win, but you got to go to the next thing. So you don't ever really get to celebrate. And that's kind of the reality of this work. I mean, ain't no awards, ain't no batons, none of that. It's just the work, and everybody can't do it. And if you're looking for some type of acknowledgement or celebration, good luck with that. But I do want to, in this case, introduce Candace. Candace, not only has she been working with the NAACP as a legal redress chair, she's a local attorney in her own right. She's worked for several years. She can get into that. But she also managed a successful campaign for judge 2 years ago, I guess a year and a half ago. And that was a big deal because I think it was her first campaign. And it was certainly her father's first campaign. And he's Judge Quincy Coleman. And he was successful against some tough odds. And the backdrop on that is in Howard County, there had never been a African American judge to be elected in an election. There had been people appointed. Let me back up so we can explain you how this happens. Either you're appointed to be a judge, you're appointed by the governor, and you run as a sitting judge, and you can be elected or re-elected. You're appointed, then you're elected. So that it has been the case that in the past that we've had African Americans who were appointed and then get elected in a majority white county. There's one example of that. And then there was another example of the sitting chief judge, I think, who was appointed and he was elected and reelected and all this. So he's been in there. But it has never been the case that someone decided to run against a sitting judge who was appointed by a Republican in 2019, I think, 2020. And the expectation was that he was going to be there until he turned 75. But Quincy Coleman had other plans. Quincy Coleman ran against the conventional brain trust and all that. He ran against the Democrats and the Republicans and people who just didn't believe. But enough people did believe, and he got elected. And he did the work. And Candace was the campaign manager, and they pulled off a fabulous, successful race. And I'm introducing Candace Yamez. Is that correct?
It's Jaime, so you got it almost.
Jaimez.
It's okay. Everybody calls it all kinds of
French. I
different
didn't
things.
take Spanish. Jaimez. The J is an H, like Jesus.
Yes.
All right. I introduce Candace Jaimez, and she can come and she's working on a lot of good stuff in the county. And I'll give her the opportunity to tell us who she is and what she's going to be doing.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Candace Jaimez. I am a practicing attorney in Maryland. I do my practice is based mainly in Howard County. However, I do practice all over the state. I do a variety of different types of law. Mainly right now, I do a lot of criminal defense and some personal injury. And for the NAACP, I do I'm learning and getting more involved in civil rights issues that kind of overlap and spill into the other areas of conventional law, I guess, if you will. I am the co-chair for the Legal Redress Committee for the Howard County branch, and we've been busy. I think we have tried to restructure how we're taking on cases and how we're involving ourselves and how we're advocating for others. that come to us with issues, and then also issues that we see that sometimes people don't know that they can come to the NAACP for help. And we want to get that message out here that we are here and we are for the community and we support our people. So you don't have to be alone if you're battling an issue, even if it's something that might not fall within the mission, the core mission of the NAACP. We still want to make sure that we assist folks with finding appropriate legal counsel or whatever advocacy needs they may have. So, as of recently, a lot of my work does support the Office of the Public Defender. I'm a panel attorney with them. I also do a lot of court-appointed work, so I'm not getting rich doing any of this. I'm doing it because I feel like, to use the old folks' word, I feel like I'm doing the Lord's work, and this is what I'm called to do. We're called to help people, especially those that are downtrodden, especially those that don't have a voice. I think that it's important for, whatever capacity we're in, whether it's law, whether it's medicine, whether it's, business. We're all called to be the voice for people that may not necessarily have someone to help stand up for them, and do what we can. Here in Howard County, we do have a number of issues, I think, because the landscape and the demographics are changing out here. It is becoming more diverse, particularly with African Americans and other folks of color. There's some of our issues that when we are in our predominant communities of color, some of those issues are here, and they're, I don't think, fully understood and appreciated as to what the needs of our community are within our core African American communities. And sometimes there's a hostile reception out here, and so we are doing everything we can to combat that, particularly when it comes to our youth, our young Black boys. A lot of times, the attitude that I have observed, whether it's in court or just talking to some of my colleagues, is that young Black boys are public enemy number one. And regardless of what their parents may do, what kind of family they come from, and there is a presumption that they are criminal minded, that they're mature and have more criminal capacity beyond their years, and that they're troubled. And so sometimes most of the time, they're not given the benefit of the doubt that they would, than other kids of color may be. And so that is a core part of the issues that we're dealing with now. And I'm working with Mr. Flowers on. We have a lot of Black leadership in this county. And I think a lot of our work has been in getting them to understand why they're there, to be frank.
So it's hard to explain.
I'm trying to choose my words.
Well, it's the reality. We live in this space, and anybody who's doing this advocacy work with hope of civil rights, you don't start just yesterday. You've been trying to, thinking about how to get in the right position to do the most work, to help the community, to help Black folks. And then, you assume that when you get into a role, and not only you are going to do something to help Black folks, but anybody who's in perceived power will. But sometimes it doesn't happen like that. Particularly when you get caught up with partisanship and partisan politics, they have to do what the party says. They have to do what whoever paid for their election tells them to do. It's not. They don't really, it feels like they don't pay attention to what we're doing. So it's kind of awkward. Like, you have hope, you like these people, but, they don't deliver on what the people need sometimes.
And I understand, and I think we understand, Willie, the situation that they're in, especially when you're the first Black anything. You have to tread your waters carefully because you want to stay the first Black, or you want to stay in that position, and you need to be able to, maneuver the political landscape as well. However, sometimes things can, it becomes a battle of politics versus, this is what's right and this is what I need to do. And, you know, I think that we need to, as an organization, have these conversations sometimes with our leadership. I'm just getting into, kind of getting my feet wet and getting comfortable in my role in this legal redress committee. But I think that we also need to offer support to our, more support and see how we can be more innovative in our or comprehensive in our support to our Black leadership to let them know that we're here and we have a voice and we will back them when they do, what is, what they're morally and legally required to do.
All right. So we're gonna open up the floor. We have President Richard Potter. He just jumped on. Another leader, and he's really doing a lot of work. Has been doing a lot of work on the Eastern Shore for some time now. He can get into the details of that. I can name a few things that he's done because he's been if you know about Anton's law, he can talk about that later. He was kind of the nucleus of that because I think that without his work to keep it alive, the bill wouldn't have been conceived. There's a lot of details about that. It's probably he can correct me. It's probably been a 6-year. It was a 6-year battle to
which
about
one?
1 year.
Which one are you referring to?
See, that's what I'm talking about. The Anton's the incident happened maybe 6 years ago.
No, that happened in 2018. So we have been roughly about 2.5, 3 years.
Okay. I thought, okay. All right.
Talbot Boys has been 6 years.
6 years. Okay. I'm getting my activities mixed up.
Yeah.
But the point is, those are two, I would say record-making, history-making incidents on the Eastern Shore that people wouldn't know about. You certainly wouldn't have known about it without the tenacity and resilience of President Potter. So I want to introduce him and frame that in just to say these two actions that we're talking about are things that most people would have just left alone, but he stayed on top of them. So I want to introduce President Richard Potter.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, President Flowers, for having me on. I will say that the Talbot Boys, we started that issue in 2016 as it relates to requesting for that statue to be removed off of the courthouse lawn in Talbot County due to the negative connotation that monument sent and the negative messaging that was sent to particularly Black and African-American individuals with that. So within that whole journey in 2016, when we initially asked for it to be removed, the council unanimously voted no, not to remove it. After we received that vote of no, we kind of went back and looked at our messaging. And one of the things that we potentially came away with after, going back and looking at it again was the fact that we sold that story as being a Black issue. So the council necessarily saw it as a Black issue, and no, we're not going to do anything about it. It wasn't until after that we started looking at how do we tell this message to a broader community and get the broader community to then start pushing for the removal of that. So then we started tailoring our messaging, and then we started getting great success with that. The ACLU of Maryland joined us in many of these efforts from the humble beginnings. And then grassroots organizations started to form in our community. The most popular one was Move the Monument Coalition. And during the course of COVID, because then, 2020, COVID hit, they did a really great job of being instrumental in providing educational opportunities around the Confederate monument. So they brought in historic experts. They brought in veterans to speak on the topic. They brought in a very diverse group of individuals to speak on that. And as that time went on, people started to rally and understand the cause for the removal of that monument. President Flowers.
Sorry, I was on mute for a second. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So,
Don't worry.
can you, I mean, from a grassroots standpoint, can you tell them how you pull the pieces together? Because that's important. And I certainly appreciate your strategy of shifting from Black people, because I'm sure you found out people don't care about Black folks. Hold on a second. And so my interest is, can you give us, we don't need to know all the inside scoop, the top secrets and all that, but give us how you had to make a decision. Hold on a second. How you had to make a decision to shift your planning.
Yeah, so basically the shift came from the no vote of the council. And then we started, I started pitching the message that if you're LGBTQ and if we can't address these simple issues, there's no way we're going to be able to, that we have a council that's going to be able to hear the issues of other marginalized groups if we can't do this. And people started buying into that message. So then they wanted to help. And then as they began to help and wanted to lend their voice, we started off by creating, small videos that we put together. We involved the youth. The youth in our county is something that we typically don't have because they typically go away to college. But when they came home, we solicit them in this endeavor, in this movement, and we wanted them specifically for the technology. So we did a video called We Are Talbot County. And from that video, it was a diverse group of constituents saying that they all wanted this monument removed. And we were able to share that widely through our social media channels. And as a result, that then added pressure, coupled with the pressure from the Move the Monument Coalition. And again, every entity had a specific goal that they were to work on. Again, Move the Monument, they handled all of the rally requests that came from assembling and calling people together. It was just easier for them to maneuver through getting a larger rally than it would be us. So they assumed those responsibilities. We were there to provide the historical context. We were there to provide, and when I say we, meaning the NAACP, we were there to provide the historical context. We were there to provide information surrounding the lawsuit that was filed with the ACLU, the Maryland Public Defender's Office, myself personally, Keisha Petacolis personally, and the ACLU. So we did a lot of work there, but everyone knew their goal, what they had to reach. We collectively met every week to discuss how we were progressing towards the goal. And again, simple goal, move that monument. And then everyone, those leaders from the various entities got on to talk about how they met that, what are they doing to meet that goal? What are the supports that they need to meet? And then do they need supports from the various entities that all came together? And that's how we were able to successfully get the statue down. I will say that, rumor has it that one of the council members had a change of heart, which we're grateful for. That change of heart, from my understanding, couldn't have come in a better form than the way it did, through what I was told through one of his children asking him questions about what is a racist. So again, that's what it takes sometimes to get through to individuals, is to make sure that your strategy is definitely on point, but your strategy has reach beyond your reach, meaning that strategy is working while you're still sleeping.
Right. And that's a very important point that you're making, because I saw it unfold during the George Floyd era, because people have opinions about marches, they have opinions about demonstrations, but I know that some very committed, I ain't gonna say they were committed to racism, but I know a lot of police officers who are committed to what they do as a profession and not being judged, not being able to accept criticism. But when their children were committed to those rallies. These are white children. They were committed to those rallies. That transformed how they saw what their careers were, what their jobs were, and that they might not change their careers or jobs, but they have a mentality they had to accept was not always right, and it could lead to somebody being killed. Because not only do we criticize the person who actually does the actual assault when it comes down to police, but it's only now that people who have been watching this stuff have been convicted, and you saw that with the George Floyd incident. And had it not been for all of the worldwide demonstrations in that one camera, we would not have had the I'm not going to say success of the convictions. It was just a conviction. I don't think it changes the police overnight, but it was the fact that this one person can change the way policy is moving forward because he was convicted along with the other guys who watched it. So
absolutely. I mean, we've seen that play out, and I'm telling people now that even though we did get accountability with George Floyd, I look at the other young man, Dante Ryan, I think his name is, and that whole case where Officer Potter didn't even get the minimum sentence that they were asking for. And when you look back at that and you ask yourself why, that case was not played out in the court of public opinion. So it behooves us to make sure that if we're dealing with when these cases of police accountability or police misuse of force comes to the court, we have to make sure that it's being played out publicly, because as we see, judges and things tend to do different things when they're not even in the spotlight. So it behooves us as NAACP and advocate organizations to make sure that we're present in these courtrooms, and we're present in large numbers, that we're working together to fill these courtrooms, and that we are making sure to invite media in this. Because if not, we see that fair play won't even work in our advantage when we're in the courtroom. So it has to be played out in the court of public opinion as well.
Yeah, and Candace is currently working on a action to do the same thing, and she can tell us a little about that because it deals specifically with the rare case of a school. In this case, it was a school security officer and not a school resource officer. And we want to say there's a difference, but in this case, it happens that the school security officer So sorry about that. So his training was to do what he did, and I've been moved to believe that training is is extremely important. And what we're discovering in Howard County is that their police academy is shaped to basically root out good people. And so you're left in theory now. I haven't done enough research on it, but it seems like there is an effort to keep the bad, to keep the racist and the people who are not going to check racists, and to root out the good people. And that's unfortunate because you end up with people who don't, who will stand there and watch them basically suffocate somebody and kill them. But in this case, it was caught on tape. This is Howard County, November 2021. And luckily we got on the case, and Candace can give you a kind of a framework of what she did to keep the camera rolling.
Well, it wasn't just me. It was, the elders of Howard County, and also the work of other leadership within the NAACP. There was some also support from the African American Roundtable of Howard County. It takes a village, and I think it was it November? I think it was actually December 2nd. We had received word, and that there was a student that was assaulted by a security assistant at Howard High School. The student was African American, and we saw the video, and it was because it was being passed around publicly, and it actually made it to the news, I think, that same day. And essentially what happened was this, from what we saw, there was some sort of student altercation, and the security officer, along with school police resource officer, and an assistant principal, they had first, believe they had restrained the young man, and then the security officer was punching the kid in the head, grabbing him by the hair while he's already on the ground restrained, punching him in the back of the head. And he did it twice, and he went to go do it a third time, but then he kind of regained his whatever and actually mounted on top of the student. There was no evidence, even though there were the story had evolved afterwards, because the rumor mill has started. Well, they were trying to put out rumors that the student may have had a gun and may have been this, they created him into this big monster. However, in the video, you don't at all ever see him, any of the adults that are on top of the youth, frisking him or asking him questions about a weapon. Apparently, the school was put on lockdown for some reason after that. And I think shortly after Mr. Flowers, Willie had, gone to the school to try to get some more information. The school was very elusive. They were very tight-lipped. They were and very unfriendly, I guess, from my understanding, because I was on the phone with Willie while he was trying to connect with one of the assistant principals. They were in the process of already trying to change the story. And I think they had already arrested the student, sent him to the local police precinct. They were already trying to, create this. He must have been on drugs. I'm just giving you the scenario that he must have been on drugs. He must have, been involved in some, other activities. And this is a student you're talking about that was never been a disciplinary problem at the school. And then, you had community members of other, from the other side, I'll just say it like that, that were, making accusations about this boy being a monster and that he must come from a broken home, which was not the case, with his parents and his family. So we got out in front of it, and I can't take the credit. I think it was all of us collectively. We created a media storm. We had a press conference, and we laid out the facts of the case and let the community know that this is not a student that's a chronic behavior problem, never been suspended, and kind of by still protecting the integrity of the case and also the students' privacy, letting them know that who this person was. And I think because they initially charged the student with a second-degree assault, and they were, the officer and no one else, none of the adults involved were charged. But after the community outcry from the press conference and other conversations that we had, they did eventually charge the one of the adults, even though I believe that all three of them should have been, there should have been action taken against all three, whether it was all criminal or whether some of it was administrative. I believe all three, there was some culpability on all three of the individuals, but at least the security assistant that did punch the child was criminally charged and is supposed to be prosecuted. However, at this point in time, we've been, working with the family, and we're not working with the family, but supporting the family more, just to offer whatever support or, assistance or personnel they need or guidance that they need, without, formally representing them as their attorney. we referred them to very, very excellent counsel that is handling their civil matter. And we are going to be continuing to put pressure on our state's attorney, or not really in pressure. I don't want to call it pressure because then it sounds adversarial, but we're going to continue to strongly encourage him to go forward with this case, not in a sham prosecution, but to fully prosecute this individual to the fullest extent of the law, because not only was it second-degree assault, because that was what the security officer was charged with, it was felony child abuse. Considering his position, as a educator, even if he's a security assistant, I've always been taught, even when I was working in, the school system, that everybody that comes in contact with the child is an educator. Everybody that's in the school is an educator. So there's a higher duty and a higher expectation of care for those working directly with children. So we are still going to continue to follow this case. And if, the right thing is not done in this case, then we will continue to make noise about it until it is. And it's not, I don't want to say, because we also, as an organization, we were prepared and we received backlash that we were, jumping the gun, but we did a very thorough investigation. We've watched video. We've also gone out and talked to people in the community, talked to witnesses, talked to the family, reviewed documents that the family received, and we did this independently. And I think that's also a very important part of advocacy, is knowing what you're talking about, not just getting out there and just screaming, justice for so-and-so. You need to get the facts. You collectively come together and get the facts, because the first thing that they're going to try to do is discredit you as just you're making noise. Know what you're talking about. Know the case better than what they know it. And I think that we do. There's certain things that will still come out about this, but I think that we had a very clear overview of what happened. And it's not an attack on our state's attorney in this county, because we I support any African American that's risen to the ranks to get in a leadership position that can make a difference, and because representation matters. However, it's a call to do what's right, to do the right thing, and we got your back.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna pull Miss Cousins, Dr. Cousins in, and hang tight for a second, Miss Jaimez. Dr. Cousins? Hello? Dr. Cousins? Hello, doctor? She's not coming on. I don't know what the problem is. Dr. Cousins? Dr. Cousins? I don't know what's going on. So I guess we'll go back. Dr. Cousins?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes. How are you? How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome on board to How Goes the Hour. We have President Richard Potter, who is on the Eastern Shore. He's in Talbot County, and we were just talking about his success with removal of a Confederate statue at the Talbot County Courthouse. And we're introducing you because we're having a discussion about education and about some aggressive stuff that happened at Howard County High School in December. But we want to, give you an opportunity to frame what's going on in your county, because we've been watching it, and want to be as much support and help as you can. But if you can frame it to give us an idea of what's happening in Calvert County, it would be helpful.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me on, and I apologize. I don't have my camera on, but I'm not going to explain why I don't. So just please graciously accept that. Uh,
Okay.
um, I am currently the chair of the Calvert County Board of Education, and I took office in Calvert on the Board of Education in 2014. So basically, within the last couple of years, we've had an increase in um, a lot of issues with civility in the community. Um, Families, parents, um, citizens not happy with the virtual learning to start with. Then it was the mask mandate, and then reopening of the schools. So the typical challenges that Calvert was facing was being faced by school boards around the nation. So we were not um, absolved from having those same issues. Families have obviously a right to express their concerns. No one's criticizing that, but it's in the way that it's being done. Very volatile, curled with threats and the nasty undertones, racial undertones, the whole 9 yards, which makes for, difficult position that board members have to be in order to do what we were elected to do, which was to provide adequate public education for our students in the county. So within the last 60 days or so, the board had the opportunity to do one of our major key roles is to hire a new superintendent. So our superintendent is resigning or retiring at the end of June. So we were tasked with looking for a new superintendent. Proceeded with that search with a reputable search firm that's widely known, used, respected across the nation. And they presented a host of candidates, which we interviewed, narrowed down the search, and coincidentally, the two candidates that are being decided upon are African Americans. And once that was announced, the rhetoric changed from looking forward to the new superintendent to why do we have these two candidates? Are there other candidates? They're coming from both failed school systems. They're not representative of Calvert County. That's not who we are. We need someone from Calvert County. It was a whole lot of rhetoric about why people didn't want these two candidates. Commonality is they're both, again, African American, as far as I can tell. Now, did the board seek, to hire a Black superintendent? No, we did not. The list of candidates came to us. We narrowed down the search from a wide variety of people who applied, and this is what rose to the top. And so that's what we're dealing with now, because they were a group of parents, community members who wanted us to stop and pause and start all over. And it's just been a really volatile situation in the last few weeks regarding the superintendent search and the two candidates that we will now be voting on this upcoming week on March 24th.
Well, you are very professional. You represent your craft. You're very well, your family well, Calvert County. I researched it myself, and I will simplify it by saying them white people lost their minds. It was January 6th all over again, and I looked at all the video I could, and as you know, we only met one time when I came to your meeting.
Yes,
and
sir.
but I knew I had to come to your meeting because of what I saw. I had not done the research, and it was much akin to January 6th, 2021 at the Capitol. And it's unfortunate. And for the reason that they did it is what's really disappointing. They didn't consider that they have probably two of the most qualified people they could get for a school system of that size. And I don't even think they considered that. I heard one of the testimonies, and he just spent time talking about every time he could say Baltimore area. He couldn't say Baltimore City, but he kept saying Baltimore area in his criticism of the candidate. And she's not even from Baltimore City. She's from Baltimore County, which is a pretty good school system, quite frankly. And they would, I mean, I'm not going to tell you who to hire, but I'm sure that she's learned something that can help your school system. So it was very disappointing that it broke out off into, quite frankly, from what I could tell, it was a high level of racism because of, I guess, this local viewpoint that Baltimore is so bad.
Right. Baltimore, Prince George's County, well, they say PG, Prince George's County, Charles County, any high concentration of Blacks, African Americans. When you hear Calvert County residents talk about they don't want to be another Baltimore, Prince George's, or Charles, that's what they're saying. So that's why these two candidates, they can't tear down the credentials that these two individuals have. Their credentials speak volumes more than even the current superintendent or other superintendents around, the Maryland area. So they couldn't tear down credentials, so they're tearing down data from the district that they're in, notwithstanding the district that one of the candidates is in increased, academic achievement in the tenure that they were there. But that's not good enough. It's because they're in an African American district. There are no other races especially in Benton Harbor. It's just the worst thing in the world. And for the first time, I was shocked to see some comments like, "We need diversity," and I'm like, "Really? You need diversity?" Oh, like the diversity of the last umpteen superintendents in Calvert County have been white males. So that's the diversity that you're looking for. And that's not the diversity that they see. But it's just funny to me that now they want to yell about diversity.
Wow. So, well, good luck down there. We've got two people who can help you do anything. I don't know if you see President Potter and Attorney Candace Jaimez, but they are ready. President Potter can tell you about his background, but he does a lot in the area of diversity, equity, inclusion. So we're here for you in whatever way possible. So just let us know.
I appreciate that, and we have a community that's steeped in tradition in Calvert County. I'm talking the Black community as well, and that tradition is slow to respond. So for the last 20 days or so, some key individuals are trying to increase the amount of people that are responding to this action, supporting the Board of Education in this action, not only in terms of this new superintendent, but in general, do public support of the school system in our pursuit in educating the students in Calvert. And historically, that hasn't been the case. So I look forward to any support to encourage the citizens to, stand firm and believe in the work that's being done, and to be bold enough, courageous enough to stand with the board and support the decisions that the elected body is doing. And the few, that's the vocal majority, is the few, but they are loud and they are very organized. And that's what you saw akin to January 6th is how they have been responding since COVID at our board meetings. The one you recently saw was the one that culminated into what did look like sounded like, and appeared to be like the January 6th insurrection. So any help that we could get to, show support, encourage our own citizens to stand, which that happened. Mr. Flowers, you certainly helped that charge on the 20th, on the whatever day that was, in March the 10th, when people knew that you were coming and bringing the cavalry people definitely wanted to get on board with that and show their support. So I definitely appreciate that. The school district appreciates it because we want to do what's best for our students, and this is taking away from necessary resources, and we need to cease and get back to the business of educating our kids.
Now, I want to introduce you to President Potter, because he's been doing work at every level, education and everything, and his county and throughout the Eastern Shore. So President Potter.
Yeah, Pamela, I put my cell phone number in the chat for you to give me a call.
I see that. Thank you.
You're welcome. But from the very beginning of this has been customary for the dominant culture to want to label us as monsters, individuals who don't know better. They want to relegate us to the lowest position possible. And that's what they do. But I'm glad to know that this is what the search process yielded. So as the Board of Ed, I'm assuming the Board of Ed is wrapping up their search process. They have to produce something. They can't just stall it after the process. They can't say that the process failed because 2 African Americans came forth at the top. So pressure has to be placed on that board to do the right thing. Again, I live in a rural community, so I know the pain of living in rural America. It can be done. Folks that are slow to take effect to move, that's just customary in the rural community. This issue has to be communicated right versus wrong instead of black versus white, because again, your counterparts are arguing the issue of black and white. Somebody has to argue, no, this isn't a black or white, but it's right or wrong. And then start looking for those allies in the community who potentially are going to be white to help get this, to correct the wrong that the board is currently doing, and get the superintendent's selection done and one confirmed for the betterment of the community. Again, they can tout diversity like you mentioned. Why? And they will tout it just on the surface level. But again, we're living in a global society, and yet we don't want to prepare our students to have the knowledge nor skill base to be able to interact with a global world. Again, it's not going to fall in our lap. We have to be open. We have to be willing to embrace the difference that's coming with people's various cultures, understanding that adds value to the totality of the total sum. So, with saying all of that, we have to do a better job of, 1, selling the message, 2, holding those entities accountable and putting some pressure on them.
I agree. Thank you so much for those words. And you're absolutely right. The search is over. We are scheduled to vote on these candidates on this upcoming Thursday, the 24th of March. And signing the contract for our new superintendent on this week. So the board is moving forward. The citizens had 6 months notice that the superintendent was resigning or retiring, and we did an exhaustive stakeholder outreach prior to starting the search, with getting input from every organization, entity, faith-based, every group in the county, staff, students, organization, businesses, to find out what is it you'd like to see in a superintendent. That was an exhaustive effort to get input from the community, and those who chose to participate did, but they cannot say, no one can say that it was done behind closed doors. It wasn't through transparency. The board did its every due diligence to ensure that citizen input was accepted.
Right. Here's another thing that I'll share with you. If the board does confirm either one of these African American candidates, it's going to be very important that the board supports the candidates. I've seen too many times African Americans get into superintendent positions, and again, the board want the diversity, but then after they're in the position a year or two, then they manage to do nothing right. And the board, then they end up resigning because the board doesn't decide to renew the contract. So everyone tries to walk away peacefully. And I'll reference Queen Anne County Public Schools and what they did to the black superintendent there. I'll also mention Kent County Public Schools and what they did to their black superintendent. Wacomico County, and the list will go on and on and on. So when these superintendents of color are seated, the board members have to support them as well as the community. And again, and when I say community, I'm talking about students, I'm talking about parents, I'm talking about anybody who has a vested interest in educating children of the 21st century. Because this is what we need. We need to see diversity at the top of the round. That's how you're able to get more of a diversified workforce instead of a lily white teaching base that we have now. So again, it's good for the community, but we have to make sure that those supports are in place to sustain that person as long as they want to be in the position so that they can be successful.
I completely agree. And Mr. Flowers, that's what I mentioned to you at the end of our board meeting, that I'd like to see a concerted effort by the community and support around the state to support this candidate from the date that we signed the contract on March 21st through the end of the school year, and definitely beginning July 1st when they take office.
And we I try really hard trying to promote the concept of a parent council. On one of our branches, Montgomery County has a strong parent council that supports students, but also supports families. And I think something of that magnitude will be what you're talking about. I mean, I certainly hope that the capacity of the branch in Calvert County will be such that you can rely on them. But I do think that if we can put tentacles outside of in addition to an extension of what the NAACP does, that organizes basically a countywide PTA that gets into this type of policy that President Potter was talking about. Because at some point, it's about having the right people in the school district to educate children. It ain't nothing else, So if you have a phalanx or organization that can help to do that, it would be superb. So we'll be doing more work in that area, because from what I can see across the state, I see it in Howard County myself. That's a missing ingredient, because a lot of people don't know how to engage the school board. You can go to any of the school board meetings, and quite frankly, when people are coming there, they're mostly coming in opposition to something, So it shouldn't be that way.
Right, and it's most times. Then oftentimes is not, that it's operational issues that they're concerned about, not necessarily something that falls squarely on the shoulders of the school board per se. But it's definitely something that they are alarmed about that's happening operationally. That is that our superintendent should be held accountable to, knowing that the board policies and procedures are followed, then they have to execute those. And then when that fails, then we turn back to the superintendent to figure out what went wrong before this parent got here.
All right. I want to thank y'all. We're coming to a close. But before we close, I'm going to put everybody on the spot, because I'm doing a project, because I'm trying to get some funding to do basically tourism for Maryland, how the NAACP can be a part of that, and highlighting the historic sites and also the historic destinations in those areas. So I'm asking everybody here to tell us the top 3 or 4 substantial historic sites, historic recognitions, and destinations in your county, and what book you're reading. That's also important here. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
We don't want to talk about the one you threw away.
Well, you can still see the one that we actually threw away. You just got to drive to Virginia. But I will say, in terms of African American history, Talbot County has the oldest civilized African American community in the country, that being the Hill community.
What's the name of it?
It's called the Hill community.
Hill, the oldest African American community in the country. I forgot about that. And y'all helping me with some homework because I'm trying to do a list of all the historic sites in each county, and I forgot about that one. I did know about it, but I forgot about it.
Sure.
And I think you
So,
told me.
I mean, and then of course we have the Frederick Douglass statue that was erected in 2013 on the courthouse lawn.
And he's from there. He was born there, right?
That's correct. Actually, I just probably about a couple of months ago, I was on the plantation, the Y plantation, where Douglass was as a child, and the plantation is still intact as well, with the home and everything. So those are some pretty significant areas. One of the areas that we're currently looking at right now is Richards Memorial Park, which is the largest Black cemetery in Talbot County, especially in Easton. And we believe that some of the early settlers of the Hill happen to be interred in that cemetery. So that's something to be on the watch for as we start to, look more into just highlighting African American significant areas within our county. One of the books that I'm currently reading is Take Action, the Fight for Women and Girls. I had to look at it because it's over there. And it deals with, gender equity issues and things of that nature.
All right. Now, what's a good place, a destination spot down there in Calvert County?
Talbot?
I'm sorry, Talbot.
We have in Talbot, there's you have St. Michael's, which is a very nice area. You have Perry Cabin down there. Not Perry Cabin. There's a nice hotel down there. It's on the water. There's the Harbor Town, which is in St. Michael's, which is the golf course down there. And really, really nice area, good seafood all the way around. If you want to go past St. Michael's, there's the Walnut Inn, I still believe is still open, and that's down on Tillman Island, which is a pretty nice area as well. And again, great seafood down there.
Thank you. You're making my research. You're beefing up my research, my Wikipedia research, quite frankly. All right, what you got in Calvert County, Madam Chair?
I'll start with the old Wallville School, which is the oldest standing one-room schoolhouse for African American students that were in Calvert County. And it was built in the 1880s, and it was moved in, I forgot what year it was moved onto school property and now being used as an 8th grade, redesigned as an 8th grade curriculum for 8th grade students to learn about how the African American student learned, got their education in Calvert County before integration. So that's the house is currently located, or the school is currently located, not far from the Board of Education building that you came to see, Mr. Flowers. It's across the street on the grounds of one of our elementary schools.
Now the Board of Education itself is a historic site, correct?
It is. It was the first school for Black students in Calvert County. Yes. And most of our school bus transportation companies were the first company started because the Black students didn't have a way to get to school in Calvert County. So this family started the first transportation to take their their students and friends to school, and then multiple other companies followed suit. So our transportation system is built on the legacy of these families in Calvert County. A second note is Harriet Elizabeth Brown. She taught in Calvert County Public Schools. She was a principal at Mount Hope, which was a all Black school, and she sued for low wages for Black teachers in Calvert County, and Thurgood Marshall was her attorney. So her Brown versus the Board of Education was the first Brown versus the Board of Education before the other well-known one, and she won her case against Calvert County, and so she now has there was a task force created to study that and to commemorate her. So one of the main community centers is named after her. She has a highway sign and other prominent recognitions around the county now.
And her name is what again?
Harriet with one T, Elizabeth Brown.
All right, Miss Brown. Now, what are you reading?
Actually, what is laying on my desk right now is I got this for Christmas, Amanda Gorman's The Hill We Climbed, her little short poetry that she just produced. So I'll probably read it over the weekend, but that's the next thing I have on my desk to read is The Hill We Climbed book, Amanda Gorman.
All right. Now, what destinations y'all got down there in Calvert County? Besides that, you have like a nuclear power plant, don't you?
Yeah, I was pondering that, like, what can I say? Like, I can't even, I don't even know what to say, Mr. Flowers, because
a casino or nothing?
well, we do have a casino.
All right.
Yeah, we do have the Rod and Reel Casino is in
the
Chesapeake.
Rod and Reel is a casino?
The Rod and Reel is a restaurant and a casino, yes.
I didn't know that. I did
Yes.
not know that.
Yes. So it's one of our local attractions where they host they have a venue for concerts, outdoor concerts in the summertime. Sits right there on the water on the bay. So I would say if you come down to Calvert, be sure to get over to Chesapeake Beach, North Beach, because it's a slice of heaven right here in Southern Maryland that people think they have to go far to get to the beach, and they don't have to.
So they can come right down to Chesapeake.
They can come right here to Calvert.
All right. Everything happens around that Chesapeake, though. I don't think that. Well, when I go to any place, it's like everybody there knows, but it seems to me that nobody else in the state knows. So
that is very true. People in Upper Marlboro don't know, and they're only 7 miles from here, and they don't know. There are a lot of people who've never taken Route 4 beyond 301 and Route 4, which is Upper Marlboro. And once they do, they come into Calvert County, and they had no idea it existed. Now, at the far end of Calvert, of course, is Solomon's Island, which is the tip, right before you go into St. Mary's County. So Solomon's is another nice destination on the water, lots of food, mom and pop shops, things to do down there as well.
Yeah, we celebrate Matthias de Sousa, who was turns out he landed in St. Mary's County when Maryland was a colony, and he was on the first ship that brought people over, and he was a person of African descent, and he became the first person of African descent to be in the House of, I don't know if they call it the House of Commons, but it wasn't called the House of Delegates then. But so we kind of celebrate him, and there's a monument down there near the across the street from the college. So
St. Mary's.
Yes, St. Mary's College University, or St. Mary's College of Maryland, I think they call it.
Yes.
But so we've been trying to revive his legacy. He's kind of been kicked to the curb in history, but we certainly want to celebrate him and anybody else. And that's kind of what we're doing. And I'll let Candace go, and I'll take the pressure off Candace because she's in Howard County, but she's born in Baltimore. So it's a lot in Baltimore to highlight when it comes down to historic figures, places, and all that. So go ahead.
I'm glad you said that because I am West Side certified. And I'm
West
very
Side
proud.
certified.
Families from there. There's a lot of great things that come out of Baltimore. And you can take that back to your meeting, Dr. Cousins. But I would say the Reginald F. Lewis Museum is a great place to stop through. Also, the Blacks and Wax Museum, I think it is still open. I don't know if they've done anything during COVID, but those are two great landmarks in Baltimore that are must-sees, I think, if you're looking for rich heritage. And I also believe that they are, I think I read an article where they were renovating the old elementary school, which is in West Baltimore. I forgot the name of it. If you bear with me while Willie's getting himself together, that Frederick Douglass did attend. They're looking to renovate that over in West Baltimore as well. I'm sorry, that not Frederick Douglass. I said Thurgood Marshall. I think I meant to say that they're renovating that, and so that'll be a place where people can stop by and see as well.
Well, the other now Candace won't tell a lot of people this because she wants to make them think that she's West Side certified, but she went to a Catholic high school, and the fact about the Catholics in Baltimore City is that they, after Louisiana probably, and maybe Charleston, they have the strongest legacy of Black folks in America. And one that stands out is the legacy of Mother Mary Lang.
How could I
And
forget? I'm sorry.
she founded the St. Francis School, which is now St. Francis High School, which may be the longest serving school for Black folks in the country, probably the world. But and it's kind of, the school is still there. It was she founded it in the, I guess, the early 1800s, and it still exists, and it's still producing students, and has a significant football program.
And basketball.
And she is in the, and they didn't have a gym one time, and they won the state championship or something.
Oh, wow.
And
They
she
have
is
they have a great
in the
program
process
for-
of being canonized right now. So that's like a piece of the, I guess, Black Baltimore history, and I only got hip to it because I lived in St. Mary's. I lived in Seton Hill, which is the old seminary for St. Mary's Seminary or something, and that's where she landed when she came to America from Haiti. She didn't come from Haiti; she came from Cuba. But when they ran the French out of Haiti, she came to Baltimore. That's correct. So it's a lot of history in Baltimore, and quite frankly, Baltimore history for Black folks is kind of the history of Black folks in America.
I agree.
So, Candace, what you reading?
Not that I have time for leisurely reading anyway.
That's what audiobooks are for.
What you say? Well, now I'm listening to Kids Bop or whatever my little ones want to listen to on the radio. But I was reading actually the Art of War. I was rereading that.
Oh no, who are you getting ready to fight?
You never know.
Kenneth, I just ordered that book off of Amazon.
It's kind of confusing, like not confusing, but it's kind of like slow when you are getting started. But when you pick it up, like I'm about a little bit more than halfway through. I read it a long time ago, and I just over COVID made me want to fight. I guess I don't know. I'm just joking.
No,
I'm just joking.
The only thing I can say about
I've been reading it for the past 6 months. So that shows you how slowly I put it down and picked it up, and then started rereading sections. But that's where I am.
It's just something you read for the rest of your life, because unfortunately, you do have to be ready for battle. As long as you can kind of battle toward peace. What about that?
Well, I think that it's more, I thought the book was interesting because I think, war is supposed to be the last option, and so there's a lot of good things in there about working things out. I'll put it that way.
Well, it says, what is it? Is it better to be loved or feared?
Sometimes it's just better not to be noticed and just keep doing your thing on the low until they like, surprise. I'm just joking. I don't know.
Surprise. And then there's one extension of that book is the 48 Laws of Power, that just took all of the cynical war fighting books that you can name and put them all into one. And I showed my mentor that, and he was shocked. I remember when it first came out. He was like, "How could you be so cynical?" He read like, "How can you be so cynical?" So I'm kind of, I like to pivot toward peace and love. It's hard to do, but if you get caught up in your spiritual self, you're reminded that, if you at least try to, just like President Potter explained earlier, if you try to, this advocacy we don't do it because we hate somebody, we do it because we love. And so I think the spirit of that can transform lives. And even if they're the meanest people in the world, because usually these people are doing this stuff because they don't love themselves. And I'm gonna leave y'all with that. As long as we can shine the light, I think we can continue to be successful in doing the work, because you got to have something to be happy about to do this. You can't be mad all the time. I can tell you that. You're going to be dying, angry, mad, and bitter.
Agreed.
And I ain't trying to do that. If there's any conspiracy to any of this I do, I don't want to be mad at nobody when I take my last breath. So, everybody, I want to thank y'all. I will be calling you back on. We're kind of testing this out as a pilot, because as I guess a frame of what the hope is just to highlight that there's work going on this state consistently. And in most cases, the NAACP is in the middle of it. Again, we don't get any awards. I'm going to have to pump up everybody doing the work. So get ready for that, because I feel strongly about acknowledging folks who are doing the work. I do what I can to, whenever I talk about what's going on the Eastern Shore, I make reference to what President Potter is doing, because I talked to him yesterday, and I told him before you came on board, it was almost like you're like on to the next thing now, because you can't really celebrate.
No, it's no time to celebrate, because there's so much more work that has to be done to ensure equity. So you're right. We're moving on to the next thing now.
So that's the way it goes. But you got to have the right heart. So I want to thank y'all for doing your work, and I will be calling on y'all for this. We're trying to do this on Fridays at 1:00. And if y'all have any ideas, come let me know. If you want to get on, let me know, and we'll try to keep it going and make it a good program. So thank y'all.
No, thank you for the invite.
Thank you for having
Dr.
us.
Cousins, hopefully I'll see you on Thursday. That's my branch meeting, so you got to find a Wi-Fi spot for me in there in that room somewhere.
I got you. No worries.
And thank you all for the work, Dr. Cousins and President Potter, the work that you're doing in your neck of the woods.
Thank you. It's Miss Cousins. I haven't ascended to Dr. Cousins yet. It's Miss Cousins. Thank you.
Oh,
what we gonna say about me?
She said yeah. She said yeah. So we'll look forward to that. We'll look forward to that. But you're the chairman of the board. That's bigger than the doctor. So whenever you got that target on your back,
yeah,
it's bigger than the doctor. So you've earned it.
Thank you for saying that. It's a pleasure to meet you, President Potter and Miss James.
Jaime. All right, take it easy.
All right, y'all. Have a good day.
Take care, everyone.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.